So here we're going to talk about the United States efforts initially to stay out of the war, and then what eventually brought them into the war. When war breaks out in 1914, it is beyond impossible that the United States could get drawn into a war across an ocean. Yet, of course, that's exactly what happens. So to go from point A to point B is quite a journey, and that's what we're going to talk about here. So the beginning of the war is neutrality. The United States isn't getting involved in the war. They're not even really picking a side. The United States has close historical ties with France and Britain, but in this matter, it's kind of like who cares? There's no real good guys or bad guys here. Um, and what could happen to draw the United States into the war? What are we going to get attacked? Are we going to get invaded? This is a pretty contained conflict, and as we've learned, it didn't really expand. It was like that trench warfare, and so how is the United States going to get involved? It's again pretty impossible to think that that could be a possibility. The other key word here is isolationism. If you look at a map, the United States has two oceans on either side of it. So unless we're going to get invaded by Canada or Mexico, we're going to be just fine here. And so the United States is geographically isolated, wants to stay politically and obviously militarily isolated as well. That's going to be American foreign policy on and off for a little while here. To the extent that Americans cared about the war, and they were interested in what was going on there, but only as kind of a passing interest. The side that they supported largely depended on their ethnicity. Remember, this is at the end of a huge wave of immigration during the Gilded Age, and so a lot of people in the United States still had close ties with the old country. So if you were of German heritage, you supported the Central Powers. If you were of Russian heritage, you supported the Allies. Unless you're a Russian Jew, then you supported the Central Powers because the Russian government oppressed Jewish people. The Irish supported the Central Powers because they hated the British. So it just kind of depended on your own personal situation, what side you were going to support. Um, Wilson, for his part, privately supported the Allies because of those the close historical ties. Um, Germany was doing some pretty bad stuff, and Wilson knew about that, and that made it hard to support them. And we had loaned a lot of money to Britain and France, and if we wanted that back, it would be to the United States' benefit for the Allies to win. But Wilson wouldn't have said that publicly. This was all private support because most of America wanted to stay isolated, and the president knew that politically it was smart for him to advocate that position as well. At first, for U.S. businesses, this war was awesome. They made a ton of money because, for the most part, they traded with both sides. Um, and so, rather than picking one side and trading with them and making that money, they figure, hey, we can make twice the amount of money. But that can only last so long because both sides are going to be ticked off that you are supplying enemy or weapons to their enemy. So there's going to be some pressure for both sides to knock it off. And eventually, the United States just traded with the Allies. So in that way, economically, they're picking aside the Allies, excuse me, over the second Central Powers. And maybe you can start to see some seeds being planted for future American involvement there. Germany was really hurting from this blockade Britain had established around Germany to prevent any more supplies getting in. So unless it was over land, like through the Austro-Hungarian border, German border, they were going to have a tough time getting supplies. The one weapon that Germany had to fight back against this blockade was U-boats or submarines. These submarines were fairly new on the scale of war, and they were pretty devastating for the British Navy. One of the things that is different about naval warfare because of the U-boats was this notion of unrestricted submarine warfare. So usually there's this um, rules of engagement that if you think a neutral ship, if it's an enemy ship, just go ahead and sink it. But if it's a neutral ship, like a ship from a country like the United States, you think has war goods on it that's going to help your enemy, you got to stop it. You guarantee the safety of the crew, inspect the ship, then you can do whatever you want with it. But U-boats aren't built for that. they're built to stay hidden, to be invisible. If they were to surface and follow those rules of engagement, then what's the point of having a U-boat? So they just started sinking ships, even ships from neutral countries like the United States. So again, here you can start to see some seeds being planted for the United States entering the war. Any ships around Great Britain would get sunk, again, including American ships or ships with Americans on it. The United States gave a stern warning to Germany that you can't do this just because you have this new weapon in the U-boats doesn't mean you get to break the rules. And one of the effects of this practice is that more and more Americans are becoming anti-German. So more than supporting the Allies, now they're starting to hate the Germans, which is an important step if we're talking about the United States eventually entering the war. A major turning point happened in May of 1915. A British passenger ship called the Lusitania was sunk. It was suspected by the Germans of having war goods on it, which it did, but they were trying to hide that. But anyway, 1,200 people died, including 128 Americans. So these are not soldiers, these aren't combatants, these aren't even uh, people on merchant ships. Okay, I got interrupted there and had to pause it and restart it, and I kind of forgot what I was talking about. So, anyway, you have American citizens that are dead now because of German aggression, and certainly more and more people are going to hate Germany because of that. In fact, some people started to advocate going to war against Germany, but let me be very clear here. This is not the event that caused the United States to declare war. This is an event that caused the United States to go to war. So that's proven by the fact that this happened in 1915. The United States doesn't enter the war until 1917. So this contributes to anti-German sentiment, but it does not directly lead to the United States entering this conflict. Because Germany was afraid of the United States entering the war, that the United States did not have an overpowering army at this point, but because of its industrial capacity, it had the potential to be a military power. So Germany doesn't want to add that to its troubles. So Germany backs down from that unrestricted submarine warfare. Wilson wins re-election in 1916 on the platform of "I kept us out of war," which is ironic since a month after his inauguration for his second term, the United States enters the war. He wants to lead Europe to a peace, basically saying nobody has to win, nobody has to lose, but maybe everybody can stop dying. And neither side really likes that because if they stop now, then all of that carnage, all of that death has been for nothing. So they want to keep going so that they can maybe win, which maybe is a good reason to keep killing people, maybe isn't. But that was their reasoning. Germany takes a calculated risk in early 1917. They're starting to suffer a little bit, starting to fall a little bit behind, and picks back up unrestricted submarine warfare, and knows that that could draw the United States into war, but gambles that even if it does, they could maybe win the war because, in part, because of those efforts, even before the United States could get over to start fighting, because the United States, once they declare war, wouldn't be able to start fighting in Europe for like 6 months. So maybe the war could be won before the United States actually starts fighting, and then that would solve all kinds of problems for them. The United States is then mad at Germany, as you can imagine. Adding to that anger at Germany is this what's called the Zimmermann telegram. It's an intercepted message that seems to indicate that Germany is trying to get Mexico to invade the United States so that the United States would have to defend its border and not go over to Europe. This was never going to happen. This was never serious, but it made a lot of people even angrier at Germany. And it's just kind of a weird story. Wilson wasn't quite there yet. And then three more things happened that eventually pushed him into supporting going to war. First of all, is Russia kicked its czar out of power, and maybe it was going to be starting to be like a democracy again, which is what Wilson ultimately wanted. He had trouble supporting a side or joining a side that had like essentially a king. Um, America lost three more ships and the sailors that went along with that, and so it's clear this wasn't going to stop. And there were those loans, and the only hope the United States had of seeing those loans repaid was if the Allies win. So look, that's not a super awesome reason for going to war, but that's the reality. So this story ends on April 6, 1917. The United States declares war on Germany. And now the United States is fighting in a European war where 3 years earlier that was beyond impossible. It's a bunch of little things that lead the United States to go to war, not one big thing. So that's something important to keep in mind.